This looks like an interesting cove. It's probably about an acre, maybe a little less. But I got 17 feet of water coming in here. Look at this. I was just talking about how deep it was coming into this thing. I believe I might have snagged me a little fish. You don't feel that big. But it's a crappie. And that's what I love to catch. First fish of the day. 16, 17 feet. Boy, he's warm. He is really warm. Alright. Maybe I'll make a cat cove. Seems like there's a sharp break. It goes from 6 to 8 feet real quick. I'm going to try a cast right down that edge. Let it sink down about 3 or 4 feet. Guess you can hear that fish jumping around that box. Right there he was. Alright, try that again. They're not biting very aggressively. Those first 3 fish I caught just barely hooked on the edge of the lips. I'm assuming that's a bite. Maybe I'm dragging across a limb or something, but sure feels like a crappie bite. They don't bite very hard. Most of the time when they bite, it's almost like dragging your lure into a big old pile of weeds. Alright, 3rd time's a charm now. Come on. Let's get hooked up here. There's another little bite. Another one. Got him that time. Yeah, man, it's another crapola. Barely hooked. Well, that's 4 fish in about 10 minutes. Well, darn, I say he barely hooked. Hooked on a bony part. I couldn't hardly get it out. Well, hopefully I can get a couple of dozen fish. Make it worth my time cleaning them. Alright, gonna go back. I just threw right back down that brake line. Hooked up again. See, now I'm up here in 5.5 feet. Let me get my boat back out here on this edge. Alright. Alright, there's the break. Cast parallel with the shore, right along that brake line. Try and stop myself here. There he is again. So I'm talking about, if you don't have a depth finder, you're really missing the boat. Like I said, I don't use it so much to locate actual fish, but it's really critical when you need to find these key places. Like that's kind of flat up to the shoreline, then it drops off real sharp into the creek, then the creek is kind of flat till you get on the other side, it'll come up. Okay, well that's the game plan for now. Got 9 crappies just throwing right down this brake line in this cove. They have decimated my jig. It's so chewed up it won't even stay on the hook. I got it in there kind of cockeyed. I don't mind casting a jig like that, but when I go to trolling, I'll definitely replace that with a fresh jig, because I don't need that line twisting up while I troll. Get back off here, and we'll try it again. Tell you the truth, I'm about ready to go find a new spot anyhow. These fish are not all that big. I usually find my better crappie out in deeper water. I'm right on this break where it goes from 6 to 8. And I didn't get a bite that time. That was a rare cast when I didn't get a bite along here. Time to move on down the road. Fine. That sun just popped up over those trees. I can't see anything. I'm going to keep working my way down into the back end of this cove. That's 14, 15 fish in no time at all. If I make 2 casts without getting a bite, I just move on down another 10 yards or so, and I'm staying right on this 6 to 8 foot edge. Okay, let me turn this off before I blind you. I came into this cove. I was finding my fish along the northern shoreline where it breaks from 6 to 8 feet real quick, real sharp. Got down to the back end of it and it was just shallow. I didn't get anything once I got shallower than 6 feet. Now I'm coming up the southern shore and it's different on this side. I'm sitting in here in 7.5 feet, but it's a slow break going up to the shallow on this shoreline. It's not as abrupt as on that northern shoreline. And you'll find that quite often in these situations. But it looks like the cove has a little point coming out in it before it has another little cut going back there. Sometimes you can find fish right at the junction of these two arms. So I'm going to mess around here 6 to 8 feet, and when I get about even with that little point, I'm going to ease over there and make a cast. And if we don't score there, I think I'm going to just get out on open water and troll before the wind picks up. Here at the junction of these 2 arms, and that's the point I was talking about just a minute ago. I figured when I got out here where these 2 things came together, it would be shallow right there. But I'm in almost 10 feet of water. So I think that this particular arm has just a deep cut going into it. So I'm going to make a couple of casts down this break line and see what happens. I don't know, a little too far to the left, but that's okay. Close enough. Let's see if I can't reposition the boat just a little bit different angle. Still in 10 feet. Yeah, I'm really surprised that's not deep, not shallower than that. Okay. Well, that's what fishing's all about. You come and learn new areas. And if you fish a lot, you'll get to where you'll remember these places. You only have to come once or twice, and then 5 or 10 years later you come and say, oh yeah, I remember how deep that was, or I remember that little shallow bar that ran out from that old busted down tree. And some days those kind of places will pay off for you once you establish a pattern. I've just about worked my way all the way to the back end of this second arm. Man, that thing is raggedy. And it's just been amazing. The drop off is perfect, but it seems to be the Dead Sea here. I haven't got the first bite on this particular side. It's almost the same situation as the other arm, but The other arm had fish on it. This one seems barren. But I'm going to go all the way to the back end and then put a new lure on here and go to trolling. You know, that thing won't even stay on the head for one cast. Okay, keep looking. Let's talk about putting a tail on your jig head. You definitely don't want to have something messy that's going to be all kinky like that, because as you troll, that thing is just going to spin around and around and put kinks in your line. This is okay for casting, or I left it on because I was exploring up a creek. Save it for an emergency. Sometimes you can just take a cigarette lighter, which I don't have, I don't smoke, and heat that head up, and it'll seal those cracks back up. But anyhow, I'm using a very small jig today. I don't know if that's 1/32nd or 1/16th, but it's got a little notch on there, which I really like, because then when I put my tail on there, got this camera on my hat, I hope I'm pointing in the right direction, I can just slide it up and then over that little keeper. You want to make sure that thing hangs straight, then it'll troll straight. Oh yeah. Okay, let's get this baby in gear and see what we can find. We're up here on these islands. I think we're in a transition period. I was out here a couple of weeks ago. I saw some fellas anchored around here. They were using fishing worms, catching brim. If the wind don't blow too hard, I might go down towards the dam later today and fish some of those grassy points that come out to deep water. The brim down there usually go on the bed just a little later than these. But this is an interesting island. There's really deep water on the west side of it and the north side of it. The bottom just goes crazy on the south side of it, all up and down. But you can come out here during the warm months with a topwater plug, you know, a popper or even a buzzbait. The water's clear. You can be casting in 15 feet of water and they'll come up and hit the top. I know this place gets a lot of pressure right here. It's so close to the boat dock, but it almost always pays off during the warm months. It's worth checking on your way out. I'm trolling from that island north to that point, right at the mouth of this really big cove. Right now I'm in about 20 feet of water. I just came out of 38. That crappie's a little better than what I caught up in the creek. So we'll mess around out in this deep water. If I can't get them rounded up, we'll go up the lake to an area I haven't fished in a couple of years. Still don't have any brim. I don't like brim, but my neighbor does, so get him some. Get a bite up there on that point. So now I've moved off. I'm gonna fish 10 to 20 feet, just trolling. I sure miss my brother, old Tom Bro. We fished together for over 50 years, and he was always wanting me to get a boat length closer to the shoreline cover, and I wanted to be a boat length farther out towards the break line. Half the time he was right, half the time I was right. So it's a dispute that after 5 decades we never resolved, but together we always seem to find some fish by the end of the day. Well, Tom Bro, I tried some shallow. It didn't work out for me. I know if you were here you'd be happy that we scratched that itch. So we'll go down here and try one more point, then I think I might go way up the river and see what we find. Well, I've been trolling through about 18 feet, coming up to about 13.5 feet here, and I see some bait activity right dead ahead of the boat. So let me get these poles in, we'll make a cast. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Could be crappies, could be white perch, or maybe small bass. Usually bass would be kicking up more of a fuss. Let's make a cast with a road runner. Definitely something got that bait pushed to the surface. Did not get a hit on the road runner. Try something a little lighter. Let's come on back here and get hooked up. Roadrunner's got a little more weight in the head than that regular jig. It doesn't want to seat right. Okay. Hope I haven't scared everything away here. Usually when I see activity like that, at least I know there's fish there. So this is worth spending a little bit of time on. I'll turn the camera back on if I score anything. I was casting, not getting a bite. Put the bait in gear and started to troll, and immediately got a hit on both poles. I hooked up on this one. That's crazy. Sometimes I've seen that work, especially in that quarry pond up in Roseville. Cannot get a bite casting, but you get them trolling. And that solves the mystery of what it was. It's white perch. They move around pretty fast, so trolling might be the better answer. You see them here 1 minute, and then they'll be 50 yards away a minute later. Yeah, we'll just troll back and forth in here a couple of times. Lordy, lordy, I have zigzagged around this cove half dozen times. I can't catch up with these fish. I see them, I head towards them, and by the time I get to where I saw them, they're way off in the distance. I don't know if it's the same school or different schools or what's going on, but I'm not scoring. Sometimes in this lake I have to use a deep running plug. I usually bring a spoon plug, but I hadn't planned on fishing for white perch today. So I'm limited to lightweight jigs, and we'll just find a place where my lures match the situation. I think it's time to go explore.